Clog TV.
Beyond the policy.
And you're welcome back to the KOKO Digest Morning Show. If you're just tuning in, this is the KOKO Digest Morning Show, and we're about to have our main discussion. Now, I'm sure a lot of us have seen or have been made aware about the recent fire outbreaks here in Ghana and even in the US. And it seems that usually during the Harmattan seasons or in the dry seasons, there seems to be a bit of a prevalence of fire outbreaks. So today with me here in the studio, we have an official from the Ghana National Fire Service, and he's going to be talking to us about, the fires and what we can do about them. And he's in the person of, he's first of all the Divisional Officer Grade 2, and he's in the person of Mr. Desmond Aka joining us here. So any questions you have, any comments and suggestions you want to make, you can also send them onto our WhatsApp number or join the live stream on Facebook and on YouTube, and these comments will be read to you out loud here. And yes, if you have questions for him, you can send it to our WhatsApp number and then he will answer. If the phone lines are opened, I will alert you so you can call in and ask your questions regarding the fire outbreaks, causes, and preventative measures. Mr. Desmond Aka, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us here.
Good morning, and it's good to be back in your studios.
Yes. I hope you had a very wonderful Christmas.
Yeah, we had a peaceful one. Let me say that.
Okay. And then with the elections and everything, considering the fire outbreaks and things.
With the elections, we were a bit busy. And then right after Christmas, we also had the fire bath. Fires happening here and there in the country. But in all of that, we have succeeded in combating them, recording minimal casualties and all that, salvaging a lot of properties as well.
Okay. So let's just get quickly into the conversation. Let's talk about the fires that we've experienced in Ghana over the years. What are some of the basic, what's the word? If you can just give us an overview of the fires we've experienced in Ghana.
All right. So when it comes to fire management, it requires a lot. So first of all, let me say a very good morning to your cherished viewers. And it is good to be back in the studios to have a discussion on fire. Many a times people have the belief that fires are far from them. When they hear about fire news, they don't seem to pay much particular attention. But fire management starts with us. It behoves on all of us to take the issues of fire management very seriously. We, as a regulatory body, as the Ghana National Fire Service, has a responsibility to ensure that we create the needed awareness on fire prevention. And then when it happens, we need to move in with the needed resources to be able to contain the situation. Over the period, we've had large fires, we've had major fires, we've had minor fires across the country. Major fires require more than 12 fire appliances. Yes, large fires also require more than 15 appliances. As for minor fires, between 1 and 3 fires could handle minor fires. And these are the types of fires that we have been managing over the period. History tells us that in 1983, we had a very Achillean bushfire situation across the country because of an El Nino situation that we recorded. That is ecological imbalance around that period of time where the weather became so harsh dry spell perpetuated for a long period of time, where vegetation, natural vegetation, lost their moisture content. They became drier, and at any passage of any flammable front, they were affected by these fires. And it took the Ghana National Fire Service way back then. As at that time, the population was not as huge as we have now. Our resources in terms of bushfire trucks and what have you, any equipment that helped us to be able to manage were not as many as we have now. But with that, we were able to manage the situation.
Okay.
And after the 83 fires, we came up with some policies.
Okay.
That is how come we now have the Bush Control and Bushfire Prevention Act 1990. That is Law 229. Okay. That came into being. And since then, we have collaborated with a lot of stakeholders to ensure that our natural vegetations are not gutted, where over the years, and as at last year, we had trained over 6,000 fire volunteers at our farming communities to be able to deal with that. So I believe that going forward, with the incessant market fires, commercial centers fires, it will not be far from wrong if we could come up with another policy as a regulatory body to also check, especially to deal with the preventive aspect. And when they do occur, we put in adequate measures to be able to deal with it. So fire prevention is everybody's responsibility. Government has a role to play in terms of providing the needed resources to us, the leading agency, which is mandated to manage these things. And then also in terms of prevention, we need to be able to come up with some strategies to kind of create the needed awareness. So as I speak with you now, we have some vans, we have some safety educators, we have the market task force in place that do go around and then engage the citizenry on what they are supposed to do, what they are not supposed to do, in order to keep these fires at bay. Okay. But we'll need these resources, like these public address mounted pickups or vehicles, to be able to help us go to every nook and cranny of this country to offer that kind of awareness creation. Because we believe that an empowered society means they are able to prevent the fires. And even if the emergency occur, because of the knowledge that you've given them, they're able to manage it in such a way that property loss are minimized, life loss are also prevented, and we have a peaceful, safe environment for business continuity.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. So it seems as though the fires are more prevalent in the dry season, but I think, to the best of my memory, we had a fire outbreak somewhere in June some years back. And I mean, June is usually the time for the rainy season. So does that mean that the fire outbreaks are not limited to just the weather conditions?
Yes, we have peculiar fire types that occur in certain times of the year. Okay. And depending on the season that we find ourselves. But naturally, fires are more prevalent in the dry season. That is right from October, when the rain subsides, through to March, when we begin to have some rains. The reason being that, this is a natural phenomenon, and we don't have much control over it. When the weather becomes dry, when there is so much heat, and then the wind also is so much up high, it makes fire control very difficult. Okay. And then for the natural vegetation, they tend to lose their little moisture that gives them some form of buoyancy to be able to withstand some level of heat. So when all these conditions are set in, then if we are careless with the use of naked light, then these fires tend to go out. Naturally, some fires too occur without any human intervention. Most of these fires that are created, even in the dry spell, when conditions are rife or right for these fires to occur, are human-induced. Okay. Yes, so if we are able to check our behaviors, how do we check our behaviors? By way of creating awareness. Awareness that seems to touch the hearts and the minds of the people. And that is what we've been able to do. So if you look at the statistics that we have been recording for the past few years.
Yes, I was just about to ask.
Almost 30% of the fires are now being managed by the citizenry. Okay. So it tells us that irrespective of our challenges, the awareness that we've been able to create over the last 60 years is now yielding results that some section of Ghanaians are now being empowered to be able to deal with the different types of fires and in their initial or the nation stages, such that lives are preserved, properties are also, how do you call it, salvaged. But in the rainy season, because the weather also changes, the dry spell is no more of an importance, but we rather have the cold spell. That is where people want to heat. They want to rely so much on electricity for their daily survival. And in so doing, it put pressure on their electrical circuitry. Okay. So if there is any fault within the electrical circuitry and then care is not given, that is where these faults also emerges. Okay. So maybe if there's a rainstorm and the premises is not properly earthed, if it is not properly wired to be able to take charge of the excess voltage or the current that is being running through the system, then it means that we're going to have issues like short-circuiting, arcing, faults, and what have you that stems out from those factors. And they create these fire situations. And most often than not, we tend to be careless with the use of our electrical equipment. Yeah. When people tend to be distracted, maybe they are ironing, they are cooking at the same time, and they receive a phone call. And they tend not to kind of focus on what they are doing. So in as much as we want to make use or make our life simple by using electricity, we need to also be focused and cautious when using some of these things. So in the rainy season, we tend to have much more of these electrical faults, kind of fires also coming up. Okay,
so I was going to ask about the rate of fire outbreaks, whether it has increased over, these past few decades. But I think I want us to go back to the basics. You've been mentioning types of fires. So if you can just give us a breakdown, what are the types of fires? How do we know what to do and when to do them?
All right, so the types of fires are basically put into 8. Okay. So we have the fires which normally affect our residential area. We term them as domestic fires. Okay. And then we have those that affect our commercial centers, including the market fires, the timber market fires, and what have you. And then we also have vehicular fires. Okay. Vehicles also tend to be much affected by these fires. And then we have industrial fires. These are industrial settings by means of utilizing their machinery, housekeeping issues. They create fires in that setting. Then we also have institutional fires. You go to our schools, you go to our hospitals, you go to our various organizations, and you have fires occurring there. Then we have fires that occur in our bush or the natural vegetation, our farmlands, our plantations, and what have you. That is also classified as the wildfire. Then we have crown fire. These are, let's say, ordinary trees within a domestic setting or anywhere, whether in the natural vegetation. But you have birds making their nest on these trees. So probably, depending on whatever thing that is ongoing on top of the tree, it could also be gutted by fire. Okay. If a bird is, let's say, building its nest, and then they use these twigs and what have you, they are very much dried. They use dried leaves and all that. So if a bird is not careful to go and pick a glowing twig, maybe from a burning refuse dump or anywhere, and then places it there, it could start a fire there, gradually burn the crown of the tree. Okay. We've also had instances where palm trees within a local setting also are affected by that. Sometimes too, somebody could be burning some refuse around the vicinity, and the glowing embers could settle on these tree tops and then create this fire situation. Okay. Sometimes during certain thunderstorm activity and lightning, they are able to strike a tree and then generate into a fire situation. So these are what we call the crown trees. And then we also have the refuse dump. A lot of the times people gather rubbish probably put them somewhere and then set them on fire. And we've gone to dampen sites to manage some of these fires. So basically, these are the various types of fires that we have. But in Ghana, over the period, every year we record not less than 35% of these fires in our domestic setting.
Okay.
So it tells us that there is something that we are not doing right in our residential areas that are leading to these fires. Okay.
So which of the fires are most common in the domestic setting? Is it electrical? Is it the burning of refuse or something else?
Right. So if you look at our domestic setting, the predominant fire cause is electrical faults. Like I earlier on indicated, electrical faults is broad. It could be as a result of short circuiting. That is where two conductors come together, then they spark off and then create this fire situation. We also have arcing. The arcing too, we have different types of arcing. Okay. So for instance, if you are renting a room or an apartment where the wiring is conduit type, that is, it is within the walls. And then, for instance, if you are not careful to drive a nail through the wall just to hang your clothes or something, and then the nail pierces the cable or the wire inside, it is able to create what we call an arc fault. Okay. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years for the heating process. You know, an arc is a break in the wiring. So the conductor is not, there is a slight break in it. So the flow of electricity is not continuous. So at that point of breakage, the electrons would want to still continue, like flow in that direction. So they will be jumping at a point where there is a breakage. And that creates what we call localized heating. Okay. And then it starts burning small. So over a period, it can lead to a very devastating fire. And that fire, when it happens and we get there, sometimes we are not able to salvage anything because it takes a bit of time. So sometimes it's not every fire that probably somebody would use naked light to maybe set a sofa or something ablaze. These are some of the fires that occur in our domestic setting. Sometimes to poor housekeeping. In our storerooms, when we tend to keep all manner of things there, there are some substances or materials, if you don't allow ventilation, that is fresh air to circulate around that area, it can accumulate heat and self-ignite without any introduction of naked light. So when it happens, it is not any witch or wizard within your family which is disturbing you. Just that you didn't know that for this particular substance, that is, you are not supposed to keep them in a very hot or warm place. So at any point in time, your storeroom, the arrangements of the product there must be such that such spontaneous or material that could self-ignite are kept in a very well-ventilated area so that the heat buildup would always be dissipated by the wind there. So if we don't declutter, it's also a recipe for disaster. That is why some of these spontaneous fires could also happen. And then also because electricity plays a major role in our domestic setting, sometimes if we are not careful with our housekeeping is basically putting your things right, making sure you declutter, a lot of fuel are not kept in one place and all that. So there is segregation, there is separation, there is proper ventilation. That is housekeeping. So if your waste disposal is problematic, you cook and then you put the waste, the food particles anyhow, it will attract some mice, some rodents, and
then they will come and chew.
Once they have food to eat, every day they would come. And if you are not careful, maybe your wiring is not well protected in your ceiling, they could use the place as a safe haven to multiply. And in the course of multiplying, there's this tendency of even chewing the insulation around your wires, and that could also lead to fires. Sometimes we have people having their roofs leaking. The reason why sometimes these mice or rodents go up there and chew the cables which are unprotected is that when your roof is leaking, and then if it rains during the rainy season, definitely there will be some moisture gathered there. So on the insulation, when the water drips along it and maybe the sun is on and it heats up, it dries. Over the period, you would see that some form of mold or fungus or fungi will be growing on the insulation of the cable.
Okay.
And that would also attract the rodents. You know, it has an appealing taste for them. So once they get attracted to that, then that is where the chewing will begin.
Oh, okay.
If they are not lucky and they're able to chew the two conductors simultaneously, they are electrocuted and they could die.
Okay.
And sometimes too, if they are lucky and they're able to chew it in such a way that they are not electrocuted, it also creates a fire situation. And your ceiling, you don't go there to clean the place.
Yeah.
It is full of cobwebs, dust, and all that. So once the fire sparks, the cobwebs will help it to spread within the ceiling. And then if you've also not incorporated what we call fire gable or gabling, it means that there's compartmentation. Maybe at every compartment, you have a brick or the block work is there just to have to serve as a fire break from one room to the other. So these are some of the causes of fires, especially with the electrical aspect in our domestic setting. And if you go to the kitchen too, that is another area of risks in our domestic setting.
Yeah. So it's getting very, very interesting here. I'm learning a lot, and I'm sure you're also learning. So if you have any questions, you can send them to our WhatsApp number or onto our live stream on Facebook and on YouTube. And then also when the phone lines are opened, I will alert you so that you can call and then ask our fire service official here all the burning questions. Pun intended. So right after this break, we'll continue the conversation and then we'll open the phone lines for you to ask your questions and learn something new about fire outbreaks. Yeah, welcome back to the KOKO Digest Morning Show. If you're just tuning in, this is the KOKO Digest Morning Show, and we're having our main discussion on the fire outbreaks here in the country. Now, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, you can send them to our WhatsApp number displayed on your screen, or you can send them to our live stream on Facebook and on YouTube. Just search for Clock TV and you'll find the KOKO Digest Morning Show streaming live. Now, when the phone lines are opened, as usual, I will alert you so that you can call in and then ask your questions and, you know, give any few suggestions you have to the Ghana National Fire Service as well. So, yes, I don't know, I'm tempted to call you DCOP, but we were talking about the fires in the domestic setting and how they are sparked, so to speak, and then you mentioned how some of the rodents and things like that also go. But then let's move to the more pressing one, the market setting or maybe work environment. Let's put all of that together. How do those fires also come about?
All right, thank you. So before I answer you that question, there hasn't been any fire in this country that we have failed to be able to manage.
Okay.
Sometimes people accuse us that they call us, we don't come on time and all that. There are issues that affect us.
Okay.
So we would always want to say that if our major stakeholders, the people that provide us with some kind of service, if they are efficient and are also doing their work effectively, it will not affect us.
Okay.
And it will also make us be able to serve the good people of this country. For instance, we use water in fire management, and the water is not being provided by us. It's being provided by another agency. So if that agency has an issue with the production of the water, it means that it affects our output.
Okay.
And that also hinders our operations in terms of effective fire management. So sometimes the blame that people want to heap on us, I mean, it is very unfounded and it's very unfortunate. So with the market fires that we've been experiencing, we all know we have modern markets in this country. Go to a place like Kaneshi, you would realize that there's a modern market there. The fire protection is top notch. They have these hose reels for firefighting. They have countless number of extinguishers. They have trained fire wardens that go around to check for compliance. People misusing electricity, doing illegal stuff, they are there to check on them and then to also ensure that they enforce whatever regulations that they have there. It is not as if fires do not occur in such a market. They occur, but because of the adequate safety provisions there, they are able to manage them within the shortest possible time, and they're able to safeguard lives and property.
Okay.
But these fires becomes an albatross or very challenging to manage in the unplanned market or the makeshift market where the predominantly structures are just wooden. And you know, for the wooden structures, anytime they are affected by fire, it takes a very short time for them to be ravaged. The fires could spread so easily because of proximity of the wooden stalls to one another. And you know, such markets, because they are unplanned, a lot of goods, different kinds of merchandise are being stored there. And then when they are affected, their burn rate varies. And that also makes fire management very, very difficult. A place like Kantamanto, the one which got burnt around 2nd of this month or so, it's a place that even bicycle cannot even access the place, meaning that the accessibility is very challenging. So for this market fire, when we got there, the fire had already spread and it was in different places. It was not as if it is just one place that you are just chasing it or you are just trying to manage. So as you are containing it from one angle, it is also started from another angle and spreading towards different angles. And that made this fire management very, very difficult because of its unplanned nature and the wooden structures, coupled with the windy, dry spell. It made the fire spread so easy. And we had difficulty assessing the seat of fire. When I say seat of fire, that is the origin or the source of fire. In fire management, the best strategy to do is to get to the bottom or the source of the fire and deal with it. Once you are having challenges with that, look at it. This is the fire at Kantamanto. So you can't fight it at one angle.
Yeah.
It means that you have to fight it all over. That is the challenge that we had.
So this fire, would it be classified as a large fire or a major fire?
This is a large fire.
Okay.
So we were able to marshal 13 fire appliances from Greater Accra.
Okay.
Yes, and that really helped us to be able to contain it. The hydrant within the market were not working, and we had to shuttle between Farisco and then Circle GRA office to get water to be able to manage this fire. But thankfully, we did not have or record so many casualties. I think a day after the fire that we heard that someone who was fast asleep in one of the wooden structures got bent and died as a result. But just that all the merchandise in there, including the wooden stores, were all ravaged by the fire. And we can prevent this. The best solution for this is replacement by a modern market. You know, we have a modern market in Kaneshi, we have one in Kumasi. I think there's one coming up in Krofom in the Ashanti region, and a whole lots of places. In Medina, we have a market which is still under construction. So when all these markets are fully constructed, we would ensure that the needed safety protocols are put in place, and then these things will be a thing of the past. But when we continue to encourage the makeshift structures, in no time, we'll be back here talking about the same thing, and we are not helping to solve problems. So we have cautioned the market managers, the owners of the place, that they should come before they erect their structures. They should come so that we will give them some form of technical advice so that we can prevent a situation like this where people have lost their livelihoods, their capital is gone, and it is making life difficult for some
in a
households.
situation like this, what is the speculated cause?
We don't want to deal with any speculated cause.
Okay.
Normally for market fires, every market has its owner or its management. When we are done with our investigations, because they are the owners, they apply and we serve them with a copy of the report at a fee. And so when we do that, the circumstances, whatever led to the fire, the cause, the remote cause, the root cause, and all that are spelled out in the report. And we are also able to do some form of recommendation to them for implementation. But most often than not, it appears for places like this, our recommendations are not adhered to. And then we come back talking at them. So we would want to still appeal to the local authorities, that is the assemblies, who control these markets, to be bold, to ensure that the proper structures are put in place so that we can also enforce the safety regulations there.
Okay, so let's have the sound for the video shortly as we show our viewers the... of this conversation, because this is a very extensive conversation and we need to learn a lot. So I'm sure I think yes, on Tuesday, next Tuesday, we will have Mr. Desmond Aka back here to educate us. But you mentioned 1983, and I mean, with our parents, the older generation, they like to mention a lot. So I'd like to ask, between 1983 and now, can you just give a brief overview of the rates, the fire rates? Has it increased or decreased over the years?
Thank you so much. With the fire rates, it depends on the weather condition.
Okay.
Anytime we have an El Nino situation, that is ecological imbalance, that is where we have the fires going up, especially from the last quarter of the previous year into the ensuing year, the first quarter of the ensuing year. That is where we record much of the fires. So anytime we have the dry spell starting early and lingering on till the end of March or April, we have higher rates of fires.
Okay.
So I remember in 2015, we experienced something like that and recorded high rates of fires across the country. And this year too, the trend is no different. Looking at what the figures that we've had from October up to December or into January this year. So it tells us that we need to do a lot more in terms of resourcing the Ghana National Fire Service to be able to intensify the awareness creation effort. We have done so much, but I believe that more has to be done so that we can send the gospel according to fire safety to every space in Ghana. We take solace in the fact that about 30% of Ghanaians, in terms of the fires that we record in the past, let's say 10 years or so, 30% of Ghanaians are now getting to appreciate the preventative measures that we've been giving them. And now they are empowered to be able to deal with fires at their initial stages. Okay. We would want to work harder, even in this year, so that we can inch up that 30% to about 40%. And I believe that it calls for more, the sacrifice and the resources from government and other well-meaning Ghanaians. And what we are not doing right in this country is that we are sitting back, even though fire prevention or fire safety is a shared responsibility. But Ghanaians in a whole, we tend not to give much attention to fire prevention and safety. So we are sitting back for government to do all the things that is supposed to be done for fire service. But that shouldn't be the case. Quite recently, we had a philanthropist from UK, Mr. Somsmary and his partners, to donate some PPEs, one rapid intervention vehicle for bushfire management. That vehicle is now in Techiman. Okay. And when the Techiman fire occurred just 2 days ago, it helped us to be able to manage that fire. So in as much as government has the sole responsibility to equip us, I would want to throw the challenge to well-meaning Ghanaians and institutions and corporate Ghana to also come to our aid. Yeah. I mean, it will not be far from wrong if we are able to provide Ghana National Fire Service with some utility vehicles with mounted PA systems just for public education and awareness creation. Okay. That will go a long way to save more lives and property. And the fires that are happening across the country would minimize, even though we don't have control over the weather. But at least the ones that we can have control over it, if we're able to empower the people, we're able to show them how to utilize the fire extinguishers to be able to deal with fires at their initial stages. I mean, it goes way long to help us to be able to keep these fires at bay.
Okay, thank you so much. All too soon, our conversation is ending, but I would like you to give us a small life hack, that we can, as we are going away, a small life hack we can practice when there's a fire in our domestic setting. Then you give us your final remarks. So we see you again on Tuesday.
All right. So I would want to say that it is important that in as much as we try and build our own apartment or just rent a place or buy a vehicle, we need to buy what we call fire extinguisher. It is not expensive than your property or your vehicle or your room or even your clothing. So if you buy these extinguishers, it helps to save your own life. And then we should try as much as possible to be able to learn how to utilize these fire extinguishers. If you go to any fire station nearest to you, they will be very grateful to support or help you to know how to use these fire extinguishers. If you don't have the fire extinguisher, in the meantime, you can get a wet towel, the cotton type. Always wet it in your kitchen. Let it be somewhere so that at any point in time, if there's a gas emanating from your gas cylinder or your stove, or you are cooking something and it is gutted by fire, then you can just use it to wrap it. Okay. And that will be able to help you to contain the fire situation. But notwithstanding that, let's just try as much as possible to buy these fire extinguishers and learn how to operate them so that when the fires do occur, then we will be able to. Then this one to the celebrities who like to share, let's say, negative news about us. We have been consistent that the Ghana National Fire Service is challenged with some equipment, and therefore government is also aware. We've made our case known to Ghanaians, and then the good people, the government and the good people of Ghana. But we have not seen the celebrities coming on board to share some of these important information to their followers, or coming to support us with even on this awareness creation drive, or coming to support us with these utility vehicles to be able to churn out this useful information out there. But some of them are just quick to share certain things on social media. For instance, this Kantamanto fire, that there's this woman who alleged that we use petrol in containing the situation. I mean, if we had petrol, we'll put them in our vehicles and use them. And then using petrol to even fight fire is very risky. It means that we will even burn. And you have people who have been educated, who should know better, sharing this on their platform instead of coming to give us the needed support to be able to educate these people to stem out ignorance out of our media space. So please, let us not think that fires are out. They are not closer to us. We are immune to fire. Let us play our part as individuals, as corporate body, as Ghanaians, and then come to the aid of Ghana National Fire Service so as to be able to help us to serve your interests. Once we are effective, once we have the modern equipment to be able to safeguard investments, who wouldn't be happy staying in this country? And we are even challenging the U.S. government, the California fires, if they should even call on us. Ghana and then we'll be able to deal with them. Yes.
Thank you so much. And this has been very educative. We hope to see you again next week, Tuesday, to continue this conversation. A big thank you to you all, cherished viewers. Thank you for your comments. Thank you to everybody that joined hands to make the show a success. We are most grateful. We are thankful to our sponsors, to our management, everybody. We say a big thank you. And we hope to see you again on Thursday, bright and early. Do have an amazing new year.
Clog TV. Beyond the policy.